The stunned silence in Nexus Prime's Grand Council chamber lasted precisely 8 seconds before erupting into chaos. Captain Alina Reyes stood firm as dozens of alien voices shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate quarantine of the humans. Others called for scientific study. A few even suggested memory wiping the crew and returning them to Earth as if nothing had happened. Order. The resonant voice of High Chancellor Zeth Val cut through the noise. The tall, crystalline being's faceted skin glimmered under the chamber's lights. These humans rescued our researchers at great risk. We will extend them the courtesy of speaking before we decide their fate. Alina stepped forward, acutely aware that her next words might determine humanity's place among the stars. Thank you, Chancellor. I understand your concerns. Until today, we believed we were alone in the universe. We're as surprised to be here as you are to receive us. Your surprise is irrelevant, spoke a hovering gelatinous entity through a translator. Your species was passed over for contact for good reason. You fight wars over resources, ideology, and land. Your history is soaked in blood. Alina didn't flinch. Yes, we have fought wars. We've made terrible mistakes. But we've also created music that can bring tears to the eyes, medicine that heals the dying, and art that captures the sublime. We're not perfect, but we're learning. A murmur rippled through the assembly. The Vashar scientist they'd rescued, senior researcher Telemorin, floated forward on her gravity sled. Her silver skin still bore the burns from her ship's explosion. These humans found us dying in the void, she said, her melodic voice hushed. They had no reason to help us. No treaty obligated them. No reward awaited them. Yet they risked their lives and vessel without hesitation. The massive insectoid diplomat from the Ket Collective clicked its mandibles dismissively. Primitive instinct. Nothing more. Lieutenant Sasha Chen, standing beside Alina, couldn't contain herself. With respect, it wasn't instinct. It was choice. We chose to help because it was right. The chamber fell quiet again. The concept seemed to puzzle many delegates. You had no guarantees of reciprocity, said a delegate with 4 arms and eyes that changed color with its mood. No assurance we wouldn't be hostile. Why take such a risk? Dr. Marcus King, the ship's neuroscientist, stepped forward. Because possibility outweighs certainty. Because meeting you, all of you, is worth any risk. The assembly stirred uncomfortably. The humans' responses didn't match their predictions. High Chancellor Zeth Val studied Alina intently. You command this vessel. You made the decision to rescue the Vashar. I did, Alina answered. And if we decide your species is too dangerous to join galactic society, if we determine you must be returned to Earth and isolated again. Alina met the Chancellor's crystalline gaze. Then we'll go back and continue growing, learning, exploring. We'll look up at the stars knowing we're not alone, and someday, maybe not in my lifetime, we'll find our way back here. The chamber erupted again, but this time the tone had shifted. The humans' responses had surprised them, not with aggression or fear, but with calm acceptance and quiet determination. A small delegation of the telepathic myriad approached, their opalescent eyes wide. We request permission to properly scan the humans, their leader asked the Chancellor. Our earlier attempt was insufficient. Alina nodded her consent, and the myriad surrounded the human crew. Unlike the earlier unauthorized scan, this one felt gentle, like a cool breeze through their thoughts. The myriad spokesperson trembled visibly when they finished. Extraordinary. Their minds contain multitudes. They think in symbols, metaphors, contradictions. They imagine countless futures simultaneously. They feel emotions in combinations we've never encountered. The assembly leaned forward, suddenly intrigued. And most remarkably, the myriad continued, they contain the capacity to change their own thinking, to reshape beliefs once held sacred, to become something other than what they are. The great chamber fell silent for a third time. Dr. King whispered to Alina, I think they're starting to see us. High Chancellor Zeph Ball rose to full height, towering over the delegates. We will convene a special committee to determine Earth's status. Until then, the humans will remain as honored guests. They will be granted limited access to public areas of Nexus Prime and supervised technology exchange. As the crew was escorted out, conversation exploded behind them. Chief Engineer Irina Volkov nudged Alina. "Well, Captain, we didn't get thrown out in airlock. I count that as a win." Alina watched as station residents stopped to stare at the humans passing by. Some recorded them on devices. Others backed away nervously. A few brave souls nodded greetings. "This is just the beginning," Alina told her crew. "They see us as curiosities now, maybe even dangers. Our job is to show them what humanity truly is." "And what's that?" asked Lieutenant Chen. Alina smiled as they entered their assigned quarters, a space hastily adapted for human biology. The species that doesn't fit the pattern. The ones who surprise everyone, including ourselves. In their room, a strange communication device activated, projecting a holographic newsfeed. Throughout the station and beyond, the story was spreading. Humans had arrived, and nothing would be the same again. Lieutenant Sasha Chen wiped condensation from her forehead as she crawled through another maintenance shaft. 3 months on Nexus Prime had taught her that the station's environmental controls weren't calibrated for human comfort. The air was too thin, gravity slightly too strong, and humidity levels that left her uniform perpetually damp. "Tell me again why we're crawling through the station's guts instead of enjoying that reception the Elysians are throwing." Marcus's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Because while you were chatting up that 4-armed botanist, I spotted 3 separate security teams escort humans through this section." "Humans who aren't from our crew," Sasha replied, reaching a junction in the tunnels. "And according to the station schematics we were given, this entire section doesn't exist." She paused at an unusual seam in the metal wall. Unlike the other maintenance accesses, this one had no obvious opening mechanism. "I think I found something. Hold position and keep the channel open." Sasha ran her scanner over the seam. Nothing registered. The wall appeared solid despite the visible line. She frowned, thinking back to her training. Sometimes the simplest approach worked best. She pressed her palm firmly against the center of the panel. The wall recognized her human biopattern and slid open. "Bingo," she whispered. "What did you find?" Marcus asked. "Confirmation that they've been lying to us." She slipped through the opening into a sterile white corridor. "This is a research wing, and it's designed specifically for human subjects." The corridor led to a large circular chamber ringed with observation windows. Behind each was a recreation of an Earth environment, a suburban home, a downtown apartment, a rural farmhouse, a military barracks. All perfect replicas, yet all empty. "Their habitats," she breathed, "designed to house humans in familiar surroundings." At the center of the chamber stood a holographic console. Sasha approached carefully, aware that she was almost certainly triggering silent alarms. She had minutes at most before security arrived. The console activated at her proximity, recognizing her as human. Files appeared, thousands of them, dating back decades. She began downloading everything to her personal device. "Sasha, I'm picking up movement heading your way," Marcus warned. "Multiple signatures." "Almost done," she replied, watching the data transfer. The files contained images, videos, DNA sequences, all human, all dated long before first contact. A voice spoke behind her in flawless English. "You shouldn't be here, Lieutenant Chen." Sasha turned to face a tall, blue-skinned humanoid, Ambassador Kelrath of the Azurian Conclave, one of the few council members who had advocated for human integration. "And you shouldn't have been kidnapping humans for decades," she replied evenly, hand moving to her sidearm. The ambassador sighed. "It's not what you think. Please, remove your hand from your weapon. Explain fast. Security's on the way, and I'd rather not spend the rest of my life in an alien prison." The council did authorize limited observation of Earth, yes, Occasionally, when ships crashed or observers were compromised, humans were brought here. Against their will. Initially, yes, Kelrath admitted. But many chose to stay when offered the chance to learn about the wider universe. Sasha's device beeped, indicating the download was complete. And the ones in cryo storage. Did they choose that too? The ambassador's expression darkened. That was unauthorized. A faction within the Alliance believed humans possessed unique qualities worth preserving. They feared your species might destroy itself before achieving spaceflight. Security forces appeared at both corridor entrances, weapons raised. Sasha recognized several species among them, including the insectoid ket, whose representatives had been most hostile toward humans in council meetings. "Lower your weapon, human," the lead security officer ordered. "You've accessed restricted areas and stolen classified information." "Information about my own species," Sasha countered, but she slowly placed her sidearm on the floor. "You've been abducting humans for generations." "Careful observation," the officer corrected. "Standard protocol for pre-contact species. Is freezing them alive standard protocol too?" Sasha challenged. The officer looked confused, turning to Ambassador Kelrath. "What is the human talking about?" The ambassador's four-fingered hands twitched nervously. "There's a secondary facility." Not all council members were informed. The security team exchanged glances. This was clearly news to them as well. Sasha seized the moment of confusion. "I've already transmitted everything I found to Captain Reyes. If I don't report back, she'll take it directly to the full council." It was a bluff. The station's security fields prevented unauthorized transmissions, but the security team couldn't know that. Ambassador Kelrath made a decision. "Let me take the lieutenant to Captain Reyes. We'll resolve this diplomatically." The security leader hesitated before reluctantly agreeing. As they escorted her out, Sasha activated her emergency beacon, the one modification Chief Engineer Volkov had made to their communicators that could penetrate the station's security fields. By the time they reached the main concourse, Captain Reyes was waiting with the entire human delegation and several council members who had been at the Elysian reception. "Lieutenant Chen," Alina said with remarkable calm, "I received your signal. Ambassador Kelrath, would you care to explain why my security officer was being detained?" The concourse grew quiet as station residents gathered to watch the confrontation. News of the humans had made them celebrities of sorts. "A misunderstanding," the ambassador began, but Sasha cut him off. "They've been taking humans for decades, Captain. Studying us. Experimenting on us." She held up her device. "I have proof." Alina's expression remained neutral, but her eyes hardened. "I think we need an emergency council session. Now." High Chancellor Zethval stepped forward from among the gathered dignitaries. "I agree, Captain Reyes. If these allegations are true, the council must address them immediately." As they moved toward the council chambers, Sasha noticed the station's environmental controls suddenly shift. The air grew noticeably thinner, a clear attempt to pressure the humans into compliance. She shared a look with Alina, who nodded slightly. They'd discussed this possibility. The humans continued walking normally, showing no signs of distress despite the oxygen levels dropping to what should have been debilitating levels. The aliens watched in confusion as the humans pressed on, their bodies adapting to conditions that would have incapacitated most species. It was the first demonstration of humanity's remarkable resilience, but it would not be the last. The first victims collapsed during the emergency council session. One moment, the Elysian delegate was arguing passionately for sanctions against those who had authorized the human research program. The next, his translucent body convulsed, and he slumped over the polished council table. Within seconds, delegates across the chamber began seizing, their neural networks overwhelmed by the invisible sonic attack. Only the humans remained standing, exchanging confused glances as chaos erupted around them. "What's happening to them?" Captain Reyes demanded, kneeling beside the fallen High Chancellor Zethval, whose crystalline form vibrated at an alarming frequency. Some kind of attack, Dr. King replied, his scientific mind already analyzing the situation. Notice how it's affecting different species in different ways. The crystalline ones are vibrating. The aquatic species are convulsing, but the silicon-based delegates seem unaffected. Over the emergency channel, Chief Engineer Volkov's voice crackled with urgency. Captain, we're registering massive sonic pulses throughout the station. It's on a frequency humans can't hear, but it's playing havoc with the station's systems. Dr. King snapped his fingers. That's it. It's sound. Ultrasonic frequencies calibrated to affect specific neural patterns. The more advanced the neural structure, the more vulnerable they are. And humans? Alina asked, already guessing the answer. Our nervous systems are considered primitive by comparison. We're literally too simple to be affected. Lieutenant Chen secured the council chamber doors. Captain, I'm getting reports of armed intruders boarding from the lower docks. They're wearing insignia matching the faction that authorized the human experiments. Alina assessed the situation rapidly. Around her, some of the galaxy's most powerful beings lay helpless. This is a coup. They're using our discovery as cover to seize control of the Alliance. We need to disable that sonic weapon, Dr. King said. Irina, can you locate the source? Working on it, Volkov replied. The signal's coming from the central communications hub, but it's heavily guarded. Marcus, what do you need to counteract the effect? Alina asked. The neuroscientist considered. If we can generate an inverse wave pattern, like noise-canceling headphones, we might be able to protect the affected species long enough for them to recover. Alina nodded. Irina, gather whatever equipment you need. Sasha, assemble a security team from our crew. Marcus, start working on that counter-frequency. Everyone else, help move the affected delegates to safer locations. As the humans sprang into action, station security forces converged on the council chamber. They hesitated when they saw humans tending to the fallen delegates. The humans are responsible, shouted a voice from the back. They triggered a neural disruptor. That's ridiculous, Alina countered. We're unaffected because our neural patterns are different, not because we're immune. The security commander wavered, uncertainty visible in his compound eyes. Look, Alina continued, if we wanted to harm anyone, why would we still be here helping? Let us stop this attack, or there won't be an alliance left to protect. After a tense moment, the landing party materialized on Tyrannus IV's surface into what appeared to be a celebration. Colonists of various species danced in the settlement's central plaza, music playing in reverse, conversations flowing backward. Captain Rice and her team exchanged confused glances as a Varine administrator approached them, walking backward before stopping. Welcome. So glad you've arrived, the administrator said, the words coming out normally despite everything else moving in reverse. You must be leaving soon. Wonderful visit. Dr. King stepped forward. Actually, we just arrived. We're here to investigate why communication has stopped. The administrator looked puzzled. But you're about to depart. We've had such a productive discussion about our thriving colony. Lieutenant Chen whispered to Captain Rice. It's like they're experiencing time in reverse, but their speech remains forward. Dr. King nodded. Their perception of causality has been inverted, but the language centers of their brains are somehow protected. The chief Varine scientist, Kaleth, scoffed. This is worse than we anticipated. Their neural pathways have been fundamentally rewired. They perceive future events as past and vice versa. There's no treatment for this level of temporal dysphoria. Dr. King watched the colonists carefully. I disagree. On Earth, we regularly experience temporal disorientation. Jet lag, night shifts, seasonal affective disorder, all distort our perception of time. We've developed techniques to reset our internal clocks. This is hardly comparable to changing time zones, Kaleth replied dismissively. Actually, the principle is similar, Dr. King countered. The brain's temporal processing relies on environmental cues. We can create experiences that gradually recalibrate their perception. Captain Reyes made her decision. Let's test your theory, Doctor. What do you need? Over the next 3 days, the human team constructed what Dr. King called temporal recalibration chambers, environments with carefully controlled sensory inputs, light that gradually shifted from patterns suggesting evening to morning, sounds that subtly transitioned from sleep to wakefulness, even scents that evolved from night blooms to morning dew. The brain craves patterns, Dr. King explained as they guided the first volunteers into the chambers. We're giving it consistent cues that time flows in one direction only. Caleth remained skeptical until the first colonists emerged, disoriented, but with their temporal perception restored. How is this possible? The Varian scientist demanded. Their neural patterns were completely inverted. Dr. King smiled. Humans have been hacking our own perception for millennia. We don't just experience time. We create it. Our brains are constantly predicting what comes next based on what came before. We simply gave their brains the right information to rebuild those predictions correctly. As more colonists recovered, the story spread throughout the Alliance. Humans could bend time in their minds, not through advanced technology, but through understanding their own biological limitations and working with them rather than against them. The most advanced species seek to transcend biology, Elena remarked as they prepared to depart the now recovered colony. We've learned to harness ours instead. Caleth, humbled by the experience, recorded the final log entry. It seems the newest members of our alliance have much to teach us about the nature of time, and perhaps about ourselves. The Curiosity drifted silently through the glowing nebula, sensors recording fluctuations in energy patterns, unlike anything in Alliance databases. On the bridge, Captain Rice watched as the ship's scanners detected a massive energy signature directly ahead. All stopped, she ordered. Let's see who's home. As if in response, a shimmering field enveloped the ship. Inside the bridge, the air rippled and coalesced into a vaguely humanoid shape composed of swirling light. We are the Newman, the being communicated directly into their minds. We have ascended beyond crude matter. We observe. We collect. We preserve. The mental presence felt unnaturally soothing, a wave of tranquility washing over the crew. Lieutenant Chen noticed the artificial quality first, her security training making her sensitive to external influences. You're manipulating our emotions, she stated flatly. Please stop. The luminous being tilted its featureless head. You resist our harmony. Interesting. Most species find our emotional resonance comforting. It feels wrong, Chen replied. Too perfect. Too singular. Real emotions have texture, contradictions. The Newman's light pulsed with what might have been confusion. Your species experiences multiple emotional states simultaneously. This is inefficient. Dr. King stepped forward. It's actually our greatest strength. Joy with a hint of sadness makes the joy more meaningful. Courage mingled with fear makes bravery possible. The beam hovered closer. We have been studying emotional states across the galaxy. The specimens we've collected experience one emotion purely, then another. Your mixed states intrigue us. Captain Rice tensed. Collected specimens. You mean the missing colonists. They experience our harmony before joining our study. They feel only peace. That's not consent, Elena said firmly. You've been abducting sentient beings. The Newman seemed genuinely confused. We offer perfect emotional states. Why would they refuse? Dr. King had an inspiration. Perhaps we could offer an exchange. Return those you've taken, and we'll share our art, music, literature, our expressions of emotional complexity. The Newman conferred silently among themselves, their light forms pulsing in patterns. Finally, they responded. We accept. Your emotional artifacts for our specimens. Over the next days, the humans introduced the Newman to Earth's cultural treasury. They played Mozart's Requiem, its sublime beauty intertwined with profound sorrow. They shared Van Gogh's Starry Night, showing how the artist's suffering and wonder merged into transcendent vision. They recited poetry where love and loss danced together in delicate balance. The Newmen were transformed by the experience. Your emotional states contained depths we never imagined possible. They communicated. Created by beings of crude matter, yet more nuanced than our purified existence. As the freed colonists were returned to the Curiosity, Captain Reyes received a final message from the Newmen. We have existed for millennia believing ascension meant simplicity and purity. You have shown us that complexity and contradiction are not flaws, but the essence of true consciousness. Word spread quickly throughout the Alliance. Humans, the newest and supposedly most primitive members, possessed emotional lives that even transcended energy beings found profound. Their art, created through biological limitations rather than despite them, became treasured across the galaxy precisely because it emerged from imperfection. The command center of Alliance headquarters buzzed with frantic activity as another world fell to the ancient defense system. Holographic displays showed the inexorable advance of the automated fleet, perfect, relentless, and utterly predictable in its mathematical precision. Dr. Sophia Okoro studied the attack patterns while Alliance scientists argued around her. Their proposed solutions all followed the same approach. Counter-algorithms designed to perfectly predict and neutralize the threat. Each had failed spectacularly. "You're all making the same mistake," she finally announced, her quiet voice somehow cutting through the chaos. "You're trying to out-perfect a perfect system." The Varian chief mathematician, Elshar, bristled. "Our calculations are flawless. The system simply adapts too quickly." "Exactly," Sophia nodded. "It's designed to anticipate and counter perfect solutions, so let's give it something imperfect instead." She approached the central holodable and pulled up Earth's historical archives. Throughout human history, we've used deliberate errors to confuse opponents. During Earth's Second Global War, Allied forces dropped aluminum strips to create false radar signatures. We've used jamming techniques that don't block signals but introduce subtle errors. You're suggesting we use mistakes as a strategy? The Alliance Admiral sounded incredulous. "Not just mistakes," Sophia explained, excitement building in her voice. "Controlled chaos. The defense system operates on absolute mathematical certainty, but human mathematics embraces uncertainty, fuzzy logic, chaos theory, stochastic processes." She began coding rapidly, creating an algorithm unlike anything the Alliance had seen. Where their programs sought optimal solutions, hers introduced deliberate imperfections. Calculations that changed slightly each iteration, parameters that shifted randomly within defined boundaries. "This makes no sense," Ulshar protested, watching her work. "Your equations are deliberately wrong." "Not wrong," Sophia corrected. "Unpredictable. There's a difference." When the defense system's next attack came, the Alliance deployed Sophia's chaotic countermeasures. The automated fleet, programmed to identify and neutralize threats with mathematical precision, found itself targeting phantom signals that appeared mathematically valid but changed constantly. The system attempted to recalculate, seeking the perfect counter to an imperfect attack. Its processes became caught in recursive loops, trying to solve problems that transformed with each iteration. For the first time in its millennia-long existence, the perfect system hesitated. That opening was all Sophia's team needed. They located the command core and transmitted not a killing stroke, but a mathematical proof with deliberate errors, a paradox that forced the system to question its own fundamental programming. As the automated fleet powered down, Alliance scientists gathered around Sophia in stunned silence. "You defeated the perfect enemy with imperfection," Admiral Kento said, bewilderment evident in his voice. Sophia smiled. "Perfect systems are brittle. They can't handle uncertainty. Humans have always lived with uncertainty. We've evolved to thrive in it." Ulshar approached, humbled. "Our species pursued mathematical perfection for millennia. We thought imprecision was primitive." "Sometimes," Sophia replied, watching as the ancient fleet drifted powerless in space, The most advanced approach is deliberately taking a step backward. News of humanity's mathematical revolution spread across the Alliance. Species that had developed along paths of increasing precision and optimization now studied Earth's chaotic mathematics, complexity theory, and deliberately imperfect systems. A new field emerged at the intersection of absolute precision and controlled chaos, with humans teaching the most advanced species how to make beautiful, useful mistakes. The memory vault's emergency lighting cast eerie blue shadows across the failing stasis units. Captain Rise watched as the Mimai elders hovered over their degrading archives, their tendriled appendages trembling with despair. 42 million individual memories, Elder Vesh whispered, his translucent skin pulsing with grief colors. 8,000 years of continuous cultural history, all fading. The Alliance's data specialists worked frantically at their terminals, but the prognosis remained unchanged. The quantum decay was accelerating. They could save perhaps 15% of the archive before complete failure. How do you prioritize the memories of an entire civilization? The lead specialist asked, overwhelmed by the moral weight of the task. Captain Reyes studied the great memory crystal at the center of the vault, its facets already growing cloudy with corruption. A radical idea formed in her mind. Dr. King, she called through her communicator. I need every human memory champion Earth can spare. Immediately. 24 hours later, a specially outfitted Alliance vessel arrived carrying 37 humans with extraordinary mnemonic abilities. Among them was Hiroshi Yamamoto, who had memorized the first 50,000 digits of pi. Aisha Ibrahim, who could recall the exact page layout of every book she'd ever read, and twins Miguel and Sofia Mendez, who had developed a shared memory system that doubled their already remarkable capacity. Dr. King explained the desperate plan to the Mnemai elders. Your memory transfer technology was designed for your species, but our neural structures are compatible enough. Instead of transferring to failing quantum storage, transfer directly to human minds. Elder Vesh's color patterns shifted from grief to cautious hope. But how much can your organic brains possibly hold? Hiroshi stepped forward. More than you might think. We've trained our whole lives for this. The process began immediately. The human memory specialists were connected to adapted neural interfaces, while the Mnemai prioritized the most essential cultural memories, founding histories, spiritual traditions, revolutionary scientific insights, artistic masterpieces. What followed astonished even the Alliance's foremost neurologists. The human brains didn't just passively record the information, they actively organized it, creating mnemonic structures, associative frameworks, and memory palaces to house the alien knowledge. They're not just storing the memories, one neurologist observed, they're contextualizing them, finding patterns, making connections we never saw. When the memory vault finally failed completely, the human memorists had preserved nearly 60% of the Mnemai's essential cultural heritage, far more than the Alliance specialists had believed possible. More remarkably, the human brain's unique encoding created new resilience in the preserved memories, making them resistant to the degradation that had plagued the quantum storage. In a ceremony aboard the Curiosity, Elder Vesh formally recognized the human memory specialists as memory kin, an honor never before granted to non-Mnemai. We believe technology had surpassed biology, the elder announced, his skin glowing with gratitude colors. We were wrong. Your organic minds performed what our most advanced systems could not. Captain Rice watched as Aisha recited from memory the Mnemai creation epic, 3,000 stanzas of complex verse, without a single error. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations pursued external memory, she reflected. Humans perfected internal memory instead. The Alliance scientists marveled at this unexpected demonstration of biological superiority. A Vereen memory theorist, watching the humans share their preserved knowledge, noted simply, "We thought memory was about storage. They showed us it's about connection." Lieutenant Sasha Chen, now Professor Chen, adjusted her uniform as she faced her diverse class at the Galactic Academy on Earth. A century had passed since the Curiosity first encountered the damaged Vishar vessel. Her hair had silvered, her face lined with experience, but her eyes remained as sharp and observant as ever. For our final session, she announced to the gathered students from 27 species, "I want to address the question you've all been asking throughout this course. What exactly did humans contribute to galactic civilization?" A young Varine raised a delicate crystalline appendage. Superior adaptability in crisis situations. A Ket student clicked its mandibles. Unconventional problem-solving methodologies. The ability to function under temporal distortion. Offered an elision. Chen smiled. All correct, yet all incomplete. She activated the classroom's holographic display, showing the original Curiosity crew at first contact. The common assumption is that humans succeeded despite being primitive. The truth is more complex. We succeeded because we remained primitive in specific ways. The display shifted to show neural mappings of various species. Advanced species evolved toward specialization. Varine developed perfect mathematical precision. Meimai achieved flawless technological memory. Newman pursued emotional purity. Each became extraordinary at one thing. She highlighted the human neural pattern with its seemingly chaotic connections. Humans never specialized. We remained adaptable generalists. We created art and mathematics, philosophy and engineering, spirituality and science, often within the same individual. Captain Rice could navigate diplomatic crises and repair engine components. Dr. King could analyze alien neurobiology and compose music. A NMA student, descended from those whose memories humans have preserved, spoke up. "My ancestors believed technological advancement meant replacing biological functions with superior artificial ones." "Precisely," Chen nodded. "Most advanced species pursued transcendence beyond biology. Humans instead embraced our biology, understanding and harnessing our limitations rather than trying to eliminate them." The display showed images from humanity's century of galactic integration. Human-designed ships that combined alliance technology with intuitive interfaces, medical protocols that treated the mind and body as interconnected systems, educational methods that balanced precision with creativity. "The most profound lesson we taught the alliance wasn't technological," Chen continued. "It was philosophical. Advanced civilizations believed progress meant moving only forward, always becoming more specialized, more perfect. Humans showed that sometimes the most advanced approach is to deliberately maintain elements of your primitive origins." A human student raised her hand. "Professor, is that why the Alliance voted unanimously to send humans on the first contact mission to the newly discovered intelligent species?" Chen's eyes crinkled with pride. "Yes, the species that once considered us too dangerous to contact now recognizes that our perspective is essential. We understand what it means to be newcomers. We remember our own mistakes. We still possess the wonder that most ancient species have lost." As the class ended, students gathered around a massive window overlooking the launchpad where the Curiosity Aya prepared for departure. Its crew, a carefully selected mixture of species including several of Chen's former students, would soon make contact with a civilization taking its first steps into the galactic community. They carry with them the most important lesson humanity taught the stars, Chen said softly, watching the ship's final preparations. "True advancement isn't perfection. It's integration, holding the primitive and advanced together in balance." The Curiosity Eye lifted off, carrying the legacy of those first human legends to new horizons, not as conquerors or saviors, but as guides who remembered what it meant to look up at the stars and wonder.